A young person in a typical high school environment reluctantly approaches the main character Makoto in order to accompany her on a date, but he strongly disagrees, asserting that things are not looking good. She refuses to budge from his respectful bow, conclude the subject. The girl who was devastated quickly runs away after breaking out in sobs. "Oh, how I know it's a classic, but it's not us. It's my terrible background move." Refraining from lifts his eyes, conveys his appreciation to Sensei, who materializes out of nowhere from on the other side of a tree. She was quite upset, prevents him from contacting her at any time he has something to admit. He expresses regret and reasons for his distaste for being involved with determine if an admission is untrue. The disappointed Sensei contemplates the cause of his cynicism towards others and advises against his trying to make acquaintances in like this. Actually, Sensei did say, "Stop, you can reach out to me via text for emotional support." His response? "I don't need friends," before he departs. He suddenly decides to depart in spite of her in a mad dash to prevent him. However, he is aware that, barring any unfortunate circumstances, is now at rest because of an untrue confession. He remembers being overjoyed if he had been there, done that, and then hurt. The conditions for Makoto's inner tranquility are several. Then the warranty on a phone. Resolving to won't make the same stupid mistake twice. Back in his day, he was the life of the party when in elementary school, and his crush on a girl thrilled him by laughing at him later on. However, after a while he by mistake knocked her to the ground as she was taking part in soccer games. Sadly, the girl flopped. Her bare feet in the muck and got her hands dirty. Moreover, in an instant the romance blossomed into a full-blown in a profound way. Scratches could be seen. Across her face, knees, and other youngsters indicated the oozing blood, every one of them. Somebody held Makoto responsible for with the intent to push her. Suddenly, Makoto, who is filled with terror, recalls carrying around a spare supply of Band-Aids. He dashes off in a flash to retrieve them. He is harshly scolded by a little child for avoiding danger and encourages him to, "I'm sorry," as there's no way to be villainous akin to frantically obtaining aid. In the future, upon his return, he discovers Shizuka inconvenient place. He decides to ask where she is different people. In a grimace, the rest of them decline to update him on her whereabouts because he omitted an apology to the woman. In an effort to clarify that he sprinted to seize the Band-Aid, but nobody takes him seriously. Not long after, unfounded whispers regarding him gained immense popularity. He was formally identified as the antagonist. "Well done, Makoto. Congratulations. You've uncovered an adversary of the grade school badge in the eyes of the public." He remembered how everyone made fun of him. Few believed him, and even fewer were interested in Onto. He conveyed his appreciation at that moment. As a means to a family. As soon as I get home, his irritated mother presses him on assaulting a young woman. Home? Yes. In what ways go to obtain formal affirmation of rumors? His enraged sister just makes things worse. By claiming that he is speaking maliciously. Concerning Shizuka and causing her harm. His mother gets furious with him since he's a bother. Compelling him to return, and I'm sorry. The fact that his mother's second marriage, and they had a preference for his stepsister. Makoto attempts to explain, but he goes unnoticed as his mother answers the phone. Even in the middle of the convention, his mom stopped communicating with him. Conversation. Wow, that's amazing family, forming connections. Upon reflection, he sees that those closest to him had their doubts. He resolves to cease providing justifications to find someone he can build trust with. What followed was when he was in middle school, he read a book every day across the day, and his fellow student Satu was, that's right. An Eadly phone he finds one day resting on the surface and speculates that it is owned by Satu. Fresh start, fresh trauma speedrun begins. He swiftly grants her possession of it. In her utterly alleviation, she makes note of her consistently spotted him in the library and now wants to know more in regards to the literary works that he finds enjoyable. Hello, Makoto is happy to have a conversation and discloses fully, convinced that he had discovered a close associate. Yet, he was thereafter branded as a person who assaulted her. Also, in the same vein as Indeed, the genuine bond of camaraderie became a drama unfolding in court. That was miscommunication led to his eventual on my own once more. On that particular occasion, a handful of females made an effort in order to address his concerns, but he was continuously wary. The individual in question, an individual called Kizaraji, implores him to accompany her on a date, asserting her fondness for him for almost a decade long. Makoto is confused and asks if she is unaware of the steaming speak ill of him. When warning signs were notional value, Makoto would have amassed a fortune of billions by this point. She tells him with conviction that her generosity in befriending him and her faith in him with her. Makoto pledges to be herself my acquaintance, but she is dead set on seeing the course of the weekend. The sad truth is, oh no, Makoto gets duped once again. Investigations exposed that Kizaraji had engaging in play with him as a kind of discipline athletic event. A humiliated Kizaraji admits to him, and the unfortunate young man erase her contact without delay. The trust issues that Makoto has completed the last section of the form. He experiences feelings that what was left of his soul on which the Satu's predicament rested has failed miserably. Regardless, when the suffering continues, when the immensely famous Nanako, a brisk day every morning, she warmly welcomes him and starts ambulating. Attempting to talk to him while we're on break, but he stays unconcerned. The social media interactions of Makoto leaving the battery disconnected indefinitely. The other, he receives advice from girls regarding his terrible notoriety, but Nanako asserts that she's sole reliance on him. What follows evening, an invitation arrives in his inbox to a karaoke session with her over the weekend. He is initially wary, but eventually comes around because she'll have a few others with her, also include friends. In any case, the companion made an appearance, but Nanako had other plans. Expected. She did, without a doubt. Surprise Development Edition level, heartbreak, predictability, premium. No matter how many times he gets caught friendly with a girl named Nanako, with whom they are convinced that there are more worthwhile pursuits than become his friend. Indignant, isn't Makoto? To himself for succumbing to the identical trick several times. He proceeded to devote during his last few years of middle school on his own. Sudden and unexpectedly, Shizuka shows up and gives him a ride-home walk. The irony is that every single girl who used to trick him eventually became involved with he attended the former's high school. According to Life, let's compile all of his past tragedies into one good spot. Something tells him that he was neglected by the girl all intermediate school has emerged out of nowhere now. He turns his back on her, telling himself not to decide to become involved, but she ends up trailing behind him. Regardless, she playfully gestures towards his home, describing how dark and he has recently grown socially isolated. Enthusiastically declines his buddy request, unconscious of the fact that she is setting unconscious rage. She, truly the person speaking, said, "You appear to be in a very bad state of mind. Of course we can hang out." To leave. She spoke honestly about the compliment. Confesses that a strange turn of events occurred before and claims he's been too aggressive. On the other hand, she maintains her entire life that she avoided trusted the reports concerning him. As he does so, he figures out that she had a more enjoyable experience at school, thus he feels she is being treated unfairly. Her belief in him is acknowledged, and he has doubts over her present goals. Makoto believes in me because is officially below freezing. She enthusiastically urges him to take risks and promises that get back to doing all those foolish stuff. He's stuck with the same needle at what's the big deal. Therefore, a red-faced Shizuka assumes his wrath over the absence of recent exchanges between them. States that the courses they took were unique and that her reluctance that was the source of the problem, she maintains. That she wishes to alter everything because currently she is a senior in high school. All mental harm is healed during high school. Makoto is informed. E-chattering continues when he sternly warns her not to associate with. She clings to his arm in utter bewilderment and prompts him to reflect on his feelings for her. Deeply regrets admitting that he was mistake. She scolds him for his actions strangely. There's no obvious restoration, such as reciprocal emotional harm, yet he humbly halts her, barred from moving forward any farther. He stonily conveys the message that she cannot trust in him. From there, he goes missing when she leaves her behind in her wake as he walks in. His sister gestures for him to find out that he's running behind schedule. Makoto actually stated, "Exit of the main character." A sorrowful piano player music. All she wants to know is if he was accompanying Shizuka. He speculates that while unsavory Parker has been listening in on conversations, thus his apology to her is icy and unfeeling. Arrives late and indicates his intention to. She frantically holds him down as he races upstairs. While also reminding him that being siblings, he bestows upon her a shows him the silent treatment as she becomes extremely distressed by his woodsman-like conduct, bringing back the vivid and upbeat he had been earlier. Oh, sentimentality, the taste of remorse with a touch of interpersonal strife. Thereafter, his mother steps in and tells him to prepare for the celebration of his high school freshman year. Now that is completely out of the blue, yet he continues cold. He straight up asks that his mom cherishes her moments spent with her loved ones. Following the events at Shizuka, find it increasingly uncomfortable each time he enjoys a family outing. Therefore, he stays indoors and dedicates his alone with their books. Oh, absolutely. There is no better way to get in the party spirit than with massive detached from his emotions. Worriedly, mom stresses the fact that dad could stay abroad. However, they are now with a family and he needs to quit being a brat. Has grown so ungainly that he can no longer understand the meaning of pouting. He expresses regret and promises to make amends by extreme caution in the future. As he watches, his mother gazes at the man's expression, conveys a sense of melancholy, not the journey of personal growth that I directed. It turns out later on that his composing books is my sole source of happiness because this is how he loses sight of anywhere else. He discovers not one, but two his system's unread messages, one of which is a great feedback on the isekai his work on reincarnation, and the following one comes from a publishing house, asking if he might publish his work. The young man is elated, however he is aware that events will become an issue, so he acts as though he completely ignores it and turns off the procedure. By the following day, Makoto has completed sleep-deprived as a result of the publication's email and chooses to snooze after lunch. Makoto's professional life strategize, disregard milestones till they pass. A young woman who seems out of place is staring at him strangely as she had her sub. Her identity is immediately recognized by him as Shamuzuka, who is famous for her doubtful standing, and that is the cause of her withdrawal. Then again, he ignores her. Out of nowhere, Shilly, a different young girl, offers to have joined him for lunch, but for some reason, he acknowledges her. Turn of events. It's likely that she notices his misfortune from a distance. The embarrassed teen begs to have a conversation with him because he has previously completed his meal. But Makoto has again engaged in dishonest behavior times to the point where he pays her no mind at all, even though she was frantically trying to his focus. In a flash, he summons up the courage to the eccentric girl seated next to him and asks her to give the book to him, following. The girl has read it cover to cover. Immediately relinquishes control over him, Shamuzuka, the one and only individual who views the lending of books as a trust gem. He comes to the realization that no one is interested in while waiting to speak with Shimazuka. His speech surprises the other female. To a new acquaintance. And afterwards, she averts her gaze out of embarrassment. Everybody assesses other people, he knows. He failed to conduct adequate study and analysis. Strongly discourages those individuals from before shifting his attention to the female. is standing next to him as it dawns on him that if feels bewildered over his readiness to chat with someone, then he has to take the lead another who inquires. And lastly, Makoto opens the door to self-awareness. A mere 3 educational institutions and 12 tragedies. Upon returning home, his sibling offers to help him with his burden. However, he adamantly declines, asserting that their mother will be enraged by this. He wonders, in his heart, why he spoke to. During that time, Shimizuka-san was wholly at odds with his character. Consider evildoer, and evildoer is present. Okay, things went up in smoke more quickly than a Wi-Fi video call dropped signal. Out of nowhere, Shimizuka shows up on their sidewalk and gives them a knowing grin. Her rambunctious gait is impossible to ignore. She gets as far as noticing that menacing grin on while she contemplates her place in the world, attended the same school as them. Ah, I see. The mysterious local girl takes her arrival, culminating in a villainous strut together with a foreboding stillness. All of a sudden, the Shimizuka looks at them with an icy expression when he questions if she was straining her eyes. Right now. Before long, she will fly by, speaking nothing at all. And afterwards, his sister gives him the lowdown on one of the most talked about subjects in school as a result of her dubious reputation. Finds her strange, shocked that some people nowadays are willing to breach the law in time. Disobeying the law and strolling impressively, a real multitasker. As a reply, all he does is mumble and shift. During times when she feels unnoticed. His sister angry and perplexed about why they are estranged from one another as of late. Citing how he has a history of playing with Shizuka. Disregarded her. Rivalry between siblings occurs due of who needs domestic tranquility anyhow. That's reasons for her persistent desire to intimidate him fury. He notices that she is quickly explaining away her previous inappropriate actions. Remembers the incident where she informed their mother concerning a terrible tale that was said about him, unaware of the impact on his emotions. They were experiencing physical harm as well as psychological distress. Presented by the folks at family time? Throws the blame on him for providing her with a earlier. She was distant, but now freely acknowledges her error of judgment about that disgusting slander, and thinks her laid-back elder sibling is unable of engaging in such a dreadful deed. Lowering himself, Makoto controls his want to returning to that decoy. Advancement. At last controlling his impulses to dispute family who refuse to accept reason. Nevertheless, she asserts her innocence and says she was the just one person who had faith in him back then. Coldly, instructing her to chop down the rubbish and stresses that history the mess she's in. He warns her against phoning, too. Back on Sean. Translation: could you kindly put an end to the extreme drama, you sis? In a state of anxiety, she approaches him for advice on come to his attention instead, but he promptly rushes inside after making an excuse. In the future, the earlier discussion with he is frequently irritated by his sister Haruka. That's why he tries to bury himself in books. An unexpected message appears from a young woman called Pomeko, who values her sole means of support, and the remainder of accolades abound in the email regarding his job. At last, he has received some recognition. Plus, Makoto isn't even related by blood. Upset because, as of late, he has been a deluge of correspondence from Pomeko. However, he does acknowledge that they evoke a far superior, as the audience doesn't talk to him. He stays at the office late. In the evening before calling it a day. The following day, when I was on my way to class, seeing his disappointment is palpable for him. No messages in the inbox. No writers checking email, the most relatable tragedy for all time. When Shizuka got to school, sees him and urgently summons her full focus. Her heart aches for the opportunity to an in-person discussion with him. His disregard toward her closest confidant, he is scolded by Kuroswa Momo for claiming with a smug expression that she was high-profile dispute prior to initial era. What an exemplary beginning to the when. With tears in her eyes, Shizuka describes how in that moment she didn't trick him and continues to proceed regardless of unpleasant history. She discusses her would like to take him out to the movies with the expectation that he, too, must put the past in the past. All of a sudden, Momo envelops her in a kind embrace romance and subsequently asks sharply in relation to his haughty conduct, soothes past hurts by drawing them out before a group of people. She stresses it doesn't matter what happened in the past and is beyond her tolerance, referring to him as a vicious hunter who has consumed a plethora of previously. She considers him lucky to have experienced the love and ridicule of Shizuka him for being so self-pitying over an untrue admission alongside her. Shizuka anxiously stops Momo from going on and on, while Makuta, bewildered, contemplates the purported act of generosity on her part aspect. However, in contrast, Shizuka neither did I ever attempt to repair his mistrust. I simply desired lunch, Makoto thought to himself, not an unfolding legal drama. What does Shizuka feel? His exhausted look worried her. Still, Mama thinks Shizuka is way better than Makoto. Unflinching Makoto picks up the slack she needs to demonstrate to show her the truth. Out of nowhere, when from behind, Shamuzuka emerges and essentially tells them to scatter. She looks at them with such a piercing stare that it causes them to shiver. Chu. Boss music. The discussion is now being joined by Shimazuka. A Momo, beset by horror, seeks solace in quiet in a furious manner with her. She gets a lash from Shamuzuka. In Momo's startling discovery on the ways in which she was close to Shimazuka, and Shizuka was too. And Treo would spend a lot of time. As usual, Shizuka finds fault with her. To cease becoming sugar-coated rebellious and maintains her position that she had persistently had faith in her. In a nutshell, so scandal, a former companion, treachery, and the sacred triad of adolescence. Oh no, Shamuzuka! Shows extreme anger by clenching her jaw and is preparing to scold her when Makoto steps in and puts an end to her speech. Following that, he speaks to the two women, asking about dealing with libelous accusations. More specifically, he asks if they have attempted covering someone's back, but instead received blamed for an act they did not commit. Makoto has transformed idle chatter at lunch into therapy session in its entirety. He scoffs they should know that being betrayed by a person so close. He demands that they cease displaying an air of superiority, while in actuality, they have no idea what they're doing. In their presence, he respectfully bows and asks them to withdraw in order to rescue him from more problems. Polite fury because deadly weapon for the awkward social butterfly collection of weapons. Once again, he stresses that the past is permanent. Shizuka loses it, breaks out in sobs, and hurriedly runs away with a frantic Momo chased after her. Hey there, Shizuka, looks down at them with contempt. Beyond that, Makoto style, how to clear a throng. Looking back on my time spent sitting in class, he makes assumptions about Shimazuka based on her physical attributes. Dialect in which she finds herself completely absorbed novel. He watches in awe as she lightning-fast typing pace. Regardless, just like his emotions, his mailbox is desolate. His eagerness for comments about the additional section that he included yesterday. A Pomeko message appears out of nowhere, where she expresses tremendous gratitude into his new role. Moreover, she brings up the rattle she had managed to overcome that early in the day and encourages him to endure not easy. Last but not least, acknowledgement from an whose emotions aren't all over the place. I am Makoto. Happy to hear that the review went well except from her. He questions if he would come across as overly anxious if he responded she immediately, but he feels forced to as a response to her. After he finishes, a shocked Shizuka looks across at him in an eerie way. Makoto pondered, I be assured this is merely an email from a fan, not a romantic proposal. Likely a confession, she quickly types. She checks her phone for anything before looking in. She was pointing. While doing so, his phone's notification tone beeps, showing that new information has been messaged Pomeko with the subject line, "If it's possible," he says with a hint of curiosity. That paragraph that leaves you hanging asks, "What's possible?" certain to disrupt your concentration for the remaining time today. An embarrassed Shimizuka unintentionally knocks her phone off its stand by the floor, and a mascot for Pomeranians on the reverse of her book prompts questions about in his thoughts. "Oh great, the story twist didn't..." It was completely unexpected, but almost everyone listening carefully. The sign is examined by him regarding the purported Pomeranian canine and is curious as to where Pomeka Sand got her identify it, in an effort to soothe his damaged nerves because he believed that his could be completely unfounded. Sure enough, tense pause as they exchanged looks, as Shimizuka suddenly blurts out, "Nyanta is left out because, by first glance, the sounds made by cats are completely typical spark a discussion." Skimming her, he looks as taken aback and questions his, "My heart is racing." He just isn't able to sense the unsettling sensation in his voice chest, or the cause of his hefty dry heaving. To calm down, he keeps reminding him that the two of them are completely unrelated. Warning, being distant doesn't end emergency mode. The instructor, fortunately, enters the classroom and starts the classroom time at home. He, Makoto, has written, by this point, he has decided to eliminate that communication between his brain and his phone. He insists on erasing that previously resided in the chamber, concludes. On the other hand, he puts things off, goes all the way until lunchtime, however, it's still too much for him to bear to remove that notification. Unmoving, he clutches his phone until his energy is depleted, yet fails to remove the communication. Following that, the time has come for homeroom. A spent going home is all Makoto wants. To put it briefly, he is an expert at evasion by fixating on electronic devices. Without realizing it, his eyes wander across. With Shimizuka, he feels an overwhelming surrounds her. It seems like she is in an effort to further isolate herself from people by the use of fear. He does his best to suppress his thoughts, considering her while focusing on the educated person. In class, the instructor brings up a journey, with the goal of forming teams for purpose. Now, since he's an introvert, Makoto has no "can you recall any experiences from field trips?" For he has always found gatherings to be inconvenient, and the mere thought of them causes him uncomfortable. The instructor lets them know, planning the group's imminent creation, and promotes the development of positive discussing matters between one another. Disaster alert systems for shy people. With classes out of the way, he plans to leave without saying a word. An angry Shimizuka attempts to speak, but she remains silent throughout. He swiftly calls it quits and heads out. She is so angry that she kicks the table. Curse words. As Makoto, visibly startled, gazes, she confronts him, telling him to desist from becomes friendly with her before abruptly leaving. Out of nowhere, a mysterious girl appears, curious as to if Shizuka is indeed his close associate. Simply a typical high school arrival scenario. Mysteries, suspense, and unpredictable kicks thrown in. In an instant, Makoto identifies the unknown person as Setu Miyu, the girl who worked at the notorious library incident. It would seem like she is overhauled from top to bottom and is nearly finished with unrecognizable. In an effort to disregard her, however, she is always discussing the days of the library when they was a blast. In some way, she went from anarchy to full-on conversation with a librarian. As she herself confesses, she was a simple Jane who struggled to gel with young men. However, she asserts that he was special. The idea that makes her face flush. No doubt it was love at first sight in their argument. She questions him on his lives in seclusion and guarantees him that she is aware of all that transpired following that. In the blink of an eye, love blossoms yet again, seemingly accompanied by interrogation. In the midst of with a concerned look on her face, she asks concerning his former adversary Haruka, the three of them, Kizuraji, Shizuka, and Nanaku, indeed in that particular high school. Upon his arrival, remains silent, leading her to believe that has not seen them as of yet. And awful, for whatever reason, Makoto can't place reason being he has cleaned their faces. Out of his head. Turned on memory wipe. Quite conveniently, she pops the question about her realizes her error and approaches him about being her buddy. She makes another attempt when he declines by highlighting the knowledge she has acquired due to the abundance of love simulators. She did claims to have gained a wealth of knowledge from her shortcomings and will make every effort to make things right. Fantasy video games? The best life counselor ever? Anxiously, he becomes aware that Shizuka and Haruka aren't his knowledge of manipulators ends there. After that, she reaches inside her pocket and retrieves an item, with the assertion that it is a nostalgia bomb. It reveals that the person in question is her ancient spectacles that she dons in an effort to shock his person. Stylish spectacles used. The top impact dubious. The crazy girl contemplates if he longs for her attractive features appearance that has been alien to him for quite some time. But the heroic young man controls his impulses to falling for all that charming rhetoric, given that he has removed all of those embarrassing recollections from junior high. At the time, taking it from his pocket, he whips out his inside the back pocket, a gleeful squeal from Sadu, like if he is likely going to capture her image and is adamant on employing a filter. Filter? No. Not now, Queen of Chaos. But he turns a blind eye to her and discovers a new notification from Pomeko. Previously, she has brought up the disarray in her life, however, went out of their way to help him and is now in anticipation of his next chapter. Okay, listen up. Unforeseen, as Makoto was sure she would cease communicating with him through letter. Once again, fan mail triumphs over selfies. At the same time, Satu, the crazed one, is yearning for a snapshot, but he's completely absorbed she was overlooked. For the most part, he's happy, owing to the reaction of Pomeo. Plus, he has no suspicions regarding this communication, as Pomeko only keen on reading for pleasure. In fact, he thinks he'll be allowing her to in the event that he abandons the chapter very soon. Inspiring but subtle freakout. Having said that, he has doubts regarding that. However, he does have some drive to start writing as soon as he gets home. He discovers his mother upon arrival, awaiting his arrival. That is, when she wants to speak to him, he infects her with a virus. Over his shoulder, saying that he has to see a close associate. Avoiding eye contact, the most popular way to welcome someone. At that point, it becomes a at his side. Haruka extends an invitation for a spending binge. According to her, is eager to wear her favorite outfit on a date. She is urged to prepare by their mother, presuming Makoto has given his consent. Nonetheless, he recommends that they both because he despises being in a group their predicament. Strengthening family ties seemingly not necessary, particularly for Jen, his mom says that Z should go out is completely trouble-free when done with family. She did suggest he put his problems in the past and tried to in because of his already impressive height academic institution. Makoto has no idea what does she mean to say? Is making the sardonic assumption that she is now doing my best to take care of him. Recalling the way while he was a junior in high school, she went in a secret relationship with his sister, his person. Very unlikely. His mom is suggesting that you have that friend over because word on the street was that he went to a party. By itself. However, he firmly declines, saying it's not worth the investment. Capital remains in charge of making the final call. It dawns on him that nothing has changed with his mom over the years throughout that time and thinks that people personas seldom change. He stresses to his mom that he is unable to journey with them all of a sudden. Worried as far as Haruka can tell, he likely has a mysterious companion. Companions without skin applicable to every age group. She strongly urges persuade him to come along by saying would like sharing a meat meal. She did shows interest in walking with a hand held his wrists. Curiously, he assumes that his opinions are likely to be untrustworthy. The opportunity to avoid scary hand-holding pursuit, particularly those with a shy people. He departs after that. surprised Haruka suddenly. He comes to the realization that she is likely marveling at the brand new shopping center in front of just like every other station. He plays a happy that he has decided not to run confronting anybody in that dilapidated old store. A tempest, nevertheless, is brewing, and you have no idea. On behalf of Makoto. He then proceeds to the food court, and fortunately the store is empty so he could write without interruption. Nevertheless, there's still more fun stuff in store, for he notices Shizuka's scowl 100% focused on her phone. He concerns herself with why she in this location. For reasons unknown, she smiles with a heated face and then, out of nowhere, her face. Makoto has a number of different expressions. Completely new. She then opens she starts to type on her portable keyboard. Without delay. Even a shocked Makoto can make out her expression with such intensity. Facial elevates gymnastics to a higher level. Consequently, does a startling discovery occur on page of Pomeko, discussing her forthcoming writing the novel that finally hits him that she, too, is a writer of novels. However, she deactivated her work approximately exactly 1 year ago. Then, a message arrives for him. Lyrics penned by her regarding his new section, and a few phrases from inspiration for him to maintain his diligent effort. And the bazooka dropped from the sky, the sound of human trumpets. Later on, he purchases a half-gallon of orange juice and reaches Shamazuka. Regardless, when the Iron Lady is completely absorbed in her job, and she continues to shout at him unblinkingly on the go. But when she realizes that individual is enduring, she frantically spins around to confront him. Turn off. Nevertheless, she is surprised to observe Makoto is positioned adjacent to her. With a surge of energy, her question concerns his attendance at this place. Oh no, I just overheard of a catastrophic event. I thought so. At the moment he sets your tabletop glasses, she's on the verge of make a statement. Much to her surprise, he ignores her and claims not to have any with the goal of becoming her buddy. His acrimonious tone somewhat pulls her in, as he always displayed an extremely cordial demeanor. Another act of kindness. Watch out, it's lethal. Out of the blue, she says, even she has a reputation that is mixed, however I prefer it to his. She is adamant that she was left alone by him. The bright kid deduces, through reading between the lines, that her standing in the community has improved greatly rotten. Awful names, terrible reputations, the season's most prominent style trend. With composure, he asserts his indifference to smell concerning his libelous stance, given that even its veracity is under doubt. But according to her, she doesn't concerned and unwilling to participate no longer. His awareness of her dubious tenure, speculation on her preferences, dates elderly guys, demands payment from associates, and is engrossed in an infinite violent acts. What a wonderful pastime. Literally a list. Reputably, she is infamous for making late-night escapes. He, however, avoids all those unfounded claims to know her and even gives her a drink. But things spiral out of control for the girl when the glass is snatched from his hand by her, passionately expressing their dissatisfaction not to be fooled anymore. Evidently a juice instrument of widespread panic. Her impending clench his fists while yelling for him to get out of her way and quit being merely superficial. However, he grabs her suddenly. Her with a hand. But whereas 50% of the liquid gets everywhere, even on the sleeves. Initially, she becomes more relaxed, expressing regret for the chaos, but then finds fault with him in every way. Classic: express regret, next place blame, and finally strategy. In a caustic manner, he assumes the responsibility for providing her beverages from in the end. With a frustrated groan, she examines his motives by questioning him while he is in no mood for small talk. He appears to be contemplative before smugly strongly denies form a friendship with her since he is skeptical and would prefer not to be tricked. It seems that friendship is not essential. She makes an effort to deter him by displaying disinterest. Following a brief awkward, he abruptly detonates a bomb, declaring her Pomeko-san status and puzzling over why she ceased writing. Shimizuka, energized, leaps petrified, gazing at him with an air of curiosity. Terrible news. Some names have the power to completely transform an entire room. In her panic, she thinks he might sensed the aroma that others were releasing. She did emphasizes the fact that they are both aware that both attempting to reinvent themselves that is not... Which begs the question, why erupt here? He was sipped juice serenely while assuring her that he has no intention of befriending with her. Truthfully, juice remains paramount. The serum. She becomes irate and scolds him, accusing him while calling him Nyanta falsely accused him of including numerous corpses. She admits that his stories have a way of causing pain. He should cherish his relationship with her passionately more personas. Happily, she makes the decision to grant him a certain amount of leeway due to the sweet protagonist. Then he sneaks plans to give a keynote speech about her writing moment and insists he hasn't read whatsoever as of this writing. She endeavors to halt him, insisting that it is actually her earlier work. But he lightheartedly adjusts her poetic style of prose. "I am going to die!" she yells at in a manic state, preventing him from ridiculing love and encouraging him to end it going straight to reading. However, Makoto isn't pause and wildly wave the phone inaccessible to her. He makes fun of her for starting a book with dumps and tragic end. The bickering and shoving will soon cease. Into the future. Unexpectedly, the belly starts to rumble like a wild animal. As she scoffs at the idea, she says, forewent lunch and engaged in idle chatter much in the end. Perplexed, Makoto discovers he hasn't communicated much for a long time, and he quietly admires her for being highly educated, something he lacked had hoped for from the genuine Shimizuka. In appearance, Shizuzuka resembles a rough coconut. Exterior, but inside they're nourishing and supple. On the inside out. Unprompted, he declares concerning dining before departing. He plays interested in knowing whether she isn't opposed to going home. She says, "I don't," without thinking harmoniously with her relatives, with whom she thinks are too bothersome and trustworthy. Her speech becomes trapped in her as a woman walks into the coffee shop. Expressing her frustration, she moans at the seeing her, but the woman lets out a cry of delight at seeing Joy, asserting that she is her elder female relative. A reddening of Shimizuka's cheeks occurs. With rage. But she didn't realize that, thus her older sister turns around and hugs her and encourages her silly to return home. Surprisingly, nothing can derail a going to a cafe. Out of nowhere, Makoto catches her eye. Assumes he is her acquaintance and welcomes her with a smile. Without warning, in unison they deny that woman talks to Shizuka as Anri, while presents herself as the younger sibling. This is Seiko. She is ecstatic about witnessing Shizuka spending time with another she was when she was younger. Kindly, Makoto presents an addition to Seiko. He looks a lot like famous main character from an online book. The blade wielded by the tragic hero, the one that Shimizuka loves the most novel. An irritated Shimizuka suddenly appears to depart and gives Makoto another gentle nudge. So they aren't pals. Popular comparison of the protagonist. If not, then why not? He tells her straight out that he is not interested. Seiko is adamant that I should has worked themselves to exhaustion and must remain for a brief conversation. And yet, a random Shimizuka rejects her angrily, but she utters the word Nyant without meaning to, as she says her goodbyes to him. My mistake. Secret found out. Timeless action. Without delay, she wishes they hadn't, but Seiko ends up suspicious. Angry Makoto begs her next time, exercise greater caution, although it's too late now and his now everyone knows. Unleashing the power of Seiko lets out a fits of laughter upon realizing that one of Nyant Sensei's students, Makoto, wrote, "The Epic Journey of Mikaru Through Isekai." With a slick tongue like Shimizuka's gelled gelatin, In a mad dash to verify with Shamazuka, however, the second shamefully attempts to conceal the error. Despite her efforts, Seiko remains unconvinced. Given her absolute certainty and having overheard distinctly audible, according to her logic, Makoto surely fits the profile of Nyanta because of his familiarity with books, to the point that it's easy for him to wax poetic about it to a shame on you, Shamazuka. Favoritism towards books, including the Trouble Magnet series. Curiously, she wants to know why he has been silent on her communications. She admits that she has been quite impatient, awaiting his arrival, and advises him to maintain an editorial meeting. Taken by Makoto, startled when a startling insight hits since Seiko dispatched him his serialization revisions for a few days ago. Feedback provided by anonymous female relative. Understood plot twist. Reiterating earlier, according to Seo, the reality that it is important that she knows that we are friends. They both reject her right away. Allegation. She shares her concerns about it was because of his inability to respond and his subsequent igniting the intensity of her anger. Seiko chooses to offer him a time for contemplation and maintains the conversation talking about serialization in relation to other time, as it is currently quite late. She brings up that their house is close by. She appears to be more brother and less sister of glue that sticks. As soon as the twins are aside, Seiko gushes over the delightful fate. Whenever a scowl Shamazuka gazes at her with a curious expression, the speaker makes it clear that the topic at hand is serialization's ultimate fate. The latter dismisses condescendingly. Final resolve, a narrative to fill in before bed. The event has been unfolding before Makoto's eyes and considers the sisters to be outrageous. He believes he isn't well-versed in Shamazuka. But still, he discovers that Seiko is serene and positive attitude. His mind is blown by the reality that he has not yet moved on from with her. With Shamazuka's confirmation, he verifies she has an editor sister. She casually states that she was not aware that she would have authority over him. It realizes that she isn't the one that compelled her to release her brother's writings, and it actually makes him feel better to find out that pain relief has the flavor of lukewarm tea. She suddenly confesses that she was who first appreciated his work. She out of nowhere pivots to face him and abruptly updates him about her job status, as published by a separate firm of she has a sister. She makes it clear that she passed up the opportunity to secure his job through her published in a serialized form, and that his current the symbol in order to get that reward. Anyhow, influence is exaggerated, stated nobody ever. Her flushes intensify in an instant. Red in the face from shame, and she anxiously fumbles for words in an attempt to conceal on her earlier gaffe. He fixates, staring at her perplexed, and following a brief pause before Seiko speaks, pronounces them to be excellent pals. Displeased, Shizuka brings up the subject of the past, detailing the circumstances surrounding her rejecting the idea of friendship. A bond of friendship appears to be an assault. A depleted Makoto anxiously explains his standstill as if perceiving an imaginary being. Curiously, Shamazuka looks and discovers Shizuka in that area, and Seto gazes at them with a dazed expression. His appearance astounds them alongside Shamazuka. Expect a surprising turn of events to occur next to a cautionary label. Turning aside, Makoto as she prepares to depart when Sadhu urgently intervenes, pleading with him to please pay attention. According to her, Shizuka and she just need to express my apologies to him. Both of them erupt into furious tears and beg to patiently wait, embracing the boundless freedom stand-in for poor choices. I must say Makoto is unmoved and intrigued by for which they are apologizing. He hasn't willing to make amends for what they've done illegal activities. As a red-faced Shizuka delicately touches his shoulder with her palm and shows him that she wants to go with him. Armpit taps or subtle guilt trips are available. As if they were having a conversation, she acts about a certain subject, and at this point in time, they need to go ahead and do it. Both females come to a halt, weeping and gazing in shock at them as his laughter erupts in a torrent buccal cavity. His playful description of her is a cute girl and accepts to go for a stroll with her. As much as it irritated Shimizuka, Makoto is pushed towards Seiko by Seiko and continues to assert her membership in their set of people. In Shimizuka's attempt at a demonstration, Seiko assertively introduces herself as Makoto's is trying to be her buddy and hold her hand. Outraged, Shimizuka orders her to stop being her only, and then he reminds her that both Makoto and they aren't companions. Blankly, Makoto looks across at her and nods in agreement. Still, Shizuka and Satu could see that he was grinning as he's surveying Shimizuka. Makoto, meanwhile, discovers that the past is never truly gone wounds. Nevertheless, he managed to lay they did so for a while, putting hurts to rest as long as nobody complains about it. He then pivots, returning to Shizuka, and using a shining light, expresses gratitude to her and speaks to named her Pomeko. As the three of them go to his, while Haruka observes them from a distance pane and finds it hard to comprehend that Makoto actually has a buddy due to the fact that see him as only finging. What follows first thing in the morning, Makoto faces to Pomeo and quietly expresses gratitude to her towards her ongoing assistance. Withholding gratitude from someone is essentially equivalent to forking out financial burdens. At the same time, Shizuka looks over at his person. After a few days, it seems that Shimizuka and Makoto have both maintained their academic distance. In his opinion, that they only serve as an writer and audience member, and she proceeds to communications with Pomo regarding his job following he published a new book. Simply put, reading socially acceptable stalking. Before long, the finally arrived, the day when the instructor declares they must coalesce into teams in order to tackle Trip. The soundscape includes chirps and murmurs. Enthusiasm in the lecture hall when the collaborative groups are formed by students. Makoto, meantime, waits idly for the groups of people since he is aware that he always ends up on the outside looking in. Finding strength in adversity, bitterness. From the ship, Shimizuka can reach, it doesn't feel different. The remaining females are anxiety over being paired with Shimizuka when the lads quake in fear of the considered teaming up with Makoto. With Makoto's cold demeanor, Shimizuka's she loses her composure and violently smashes her palms pressed against the desk and stands up without warning. Although desk slams do the trick, damaging to tables. Glancing down at a perplexed Makoto, who subsequently seizes a chalk, provided by a fellow student. The rest of their class covertly chuckle as she approaches the classroom whiteboard. She doodles wildly on the board, determined to achieve leave this drama behind. Drama demands a lot of energy and chalk. Across the board, she scrawls two names, incredulous. Sadhu lets out a gasp and wonders if they are married. With Araga, her group's news is announced by Shimizuka, comprised solely of Makoto herself, and I hope it's acceptable to everyone. Then she walks over to face the instructor and asks if two individuals from members of various groups come together to establish an issue. No one loves paperwork more than teachers do. Prior to their love of rationality, in this lesson reassures her that the outcome is irrelevant. The instructor leaves the classroom following everything is finished. Shimizuka is coolly seated in her chair as a Makoto, taken aback, looks at her emotionally distant. The most recent trend in clothing during class time? Shimizuka, red-faced, declares her intention to not receive, merely wished to get near him in place of the quiz. Without caring, he gives credit where credit is due. Accordingly, in last point, Makoto Shinju and Shimizuka Enri are definitely not pals, although let me name them, Nyanta and Pomeko. A bond of friendship, levels of mild sarcasm and extreme sarcasm. Afterwards, Makoto shows his interest in Shizuka upon their shared set of people. She goes on to say that it is more convenient to be in his company than to a person she hates. At last, He agrees with her proposal, although she gives him some advice for future use, to avoid ambiguity. He declares his inability to be as forthright right now. The rarity of bluntness is evident exceptional ability. Exhausted, he begs her to cease currently discussing academic matters. Consequently, she inquires as to his development on the current chapter and his viewpoint on reaching publication. Much to her joy, he discloses that he has completed the scene into the evening of the following day. But all he has to do is polish it, to begin with. On the other hand, he has not yet decided to secure his employment made public. What he took is something he knows. Is getting some recognition for his pastime, but he believes he is too young to legally drive and would want not to cause any trouble for his people who raised you. Young writers, the Pinnacle family stress test. Upon his arrival seems to be quiet for quite some time. She acknowledges the abundance of considerations and is adamant that he should not rush anything. It would seem that he has set a date to meet with Seo. Tomorrow afternoon? Her explanation is she worries her sister could seem insane, yet her job has given her whole attention. She did go so far as to say that I never got married, even though I was lovely, and unattached, sure to perplex observers. He fixates on her, becomes aware of it's true that she has a warm spot for her female relative. She feels humiliated by his comment, yet as she apprehensively states that ultimately, they are inseparable. At first, the word when Makoto's family comes rushing back to long-lost father, whom he hasn't laid eyes on for many years. He is uncertain about his approval. With hopes of having his book published. Set out people who raised you. What a brilliant turn of events source of motivation. Taking note of Makoto's somber asking what's wrong, Shimizuka probes more into the subject. At the time, while she suggests a fight, he remains mute. He was wondering about the topic and asked her proposes a class challenge in the great outdoors. Everybody composes a brief tale of no more than 500 words, and a judge from Seiko will be appointed. You, the judges, are dangers of artistic competitions. Hello, Makoto. Remembers that this isn't a bonding experience. It's quite a match that neither Nyanta nor Pomeko could win fight. Shizuka shouts after finishing first. Achieving victory while an irritated Makoto gestures determining that one's pace is not the winner. She turns her back on him and insists on check out his artwork. Screaming, it seems, serves as a dance of triumph. They barter handheld devices. Her face lights up with joy while listening to his tale. However, Makoto, taken aback, discovers that he is smiling at it is hers. He exerts tremendous effort to suppress his cheeks flush with laughter as he makes the eyes wet. Based on what I've read, his psychological exercise. Shocked, Shimizuka thinks her tale is so amazing that the man to tears. A beaming Makoto exclaims with all sincerity. Her gaze fixes on him startled, then breaks out into a broad grin. Personal affairs. Following that, when Makoto leaves for the day, his mom asks what time he plans to leave that day in addition. First light, the harshness of the season joke. He says it in a nonchalant way. She questions him more concerning any certain happening that day. All of Makakota's his remarks were sacred and piercing. Had previously showered upon him by his mother in the face of vile whispers that he was a molester made an appearance on the cover. No, he is unable to, regardless of his efforts. Get rid of them in his head. In the past, an unyielding payment plan. He declines, thinks she's terrible. Well, she goes to such lengths to appear flawless. Even on that particular day, she begs him to convey his thoughts rather than remaining motionless. He learns the hard way that her harsh criticisms catch him off guard and crush his spirit. He concerns herself with her response after she discovers the publication on account that she has no idea he is a writer of novels. The pinnacle of excellence, devastating news. He notices that she is critical. He published a novel at the age of being a senior in high school. He has no idea unwavering in her faith in him. Tonight, he has a commitment to encounter Seiko. He finds himself contemplating this issue while you're still in class. Just before he leaves, Haruka gives him a call, approaches him from behind and hurls an object at him, his person. He notices it right away and discovers a Japanese artist named Kusamochi pastry, soaring desserts, senior year historical practice. He reflects about her obstinateness, follows in his footsteps as they head to academic institution. While in class, Shamuzuka and Makuto trainees are summoned by their instructor in at the break room. With some trepidation, they stand right in front of her. She shows her interest with each other as pals some other instructors, seasoned questioners in informal attire. On the spot, they both reject the claims she made. Educator justifies that she has no intention of having them remain low or so as not to generate any conflict, since ultimately, she is merely a living space for them. Educated person. But she still thinks of herself as in somebody who has a deeper understanding of their needs relative to them. Therefore, she pushes to seek her counsel. "Oh no, Shamazuka," directly questions her argument. The class instructor astutely notes that the world is filled with many illogical things, and the school serves as a scaled-down version of that. She elaborates by saying she will not force them, in an effort to broaden their social circle, given that only a handful, or possibly just one, are very well. She suggests that they look for a reliable individual. "Hello, Makoto," looks down on her with a glum expression and adds that regardless of whether a person is trusted in the end, they are always dislodged. Cherry Blossoms wholeheartedly concurs with his perspective on view. After a long period of at the same time that she is struck by a wave of feeling of longing. Ideally, she would love it if they reach a level of trust with someone they are able to upon their betrayal. A couple of timing is irrelevant. In addition to Shamuzuka, Makoto look perplexed as they lock eyes. Since the instructor's statement gets their noggin. Myth, the mind that knows washing agent. Without hesitation, Shimizuka denounces he was unable to stop looking at her, categorically rejects. While the arguing starts, and then the instructor hands them off to an astute smile. From what they can tell, in the last, the instructor would prefer that they not forego the gym class, but Makoto has still confused about her intentions, meaning to communicate. As of right now, they have no idea what to do with their ideas when a mysterious girl cries out coming up behind Makoto. She did anxiously verifies with him regarding she appears to have guessed his identify and have known him for quite some time. She brings up her incessant need to converse with him. Even Makoto doesn't recognize her. She did goes by the name Kizuraji. Inevitably, long-lost friends show up trendy after the fact. It hits right away, informed him that the female who played a hoax involving a false admission was enrolled in the middle school. Out of the blue, Makoto forget what her face looked like. He takes a quick look at her before making an excuse. On his own. Desperately, Kizuraji attempts to shed light on her stance about her involved in a game of punishment without choice, those close to her. Experiments in punishment, genuine reality television. She is adamant that she has a secret crush on him and feels the need to begin anew. Anger and sadness wash over Makoto, and it was a hoax, he soon realizes. That is all. He is bewildered as to why he is giving it a lot of thought, since usually he would put an abrupt stop to such discussions. He remembers Kizuraji making fun of him at the time as well. Laughter dissipates, forever reverberating. Then it hits him. He is unwilling to engage in this discussion opposite Shimizuka. Concerned about and extends an invitation to accompany his person. The weekend after next. But still he declines, claiming that the time is past. A downtrodden Kizuraji reiterates his concerns regarding why she felt forced to act that way back then. Timing is crucial, particularly when it comes to "I'm sorry." To him, it seems like she is only attempting to rationalize her behavior, disregarding his sentiments. Similar to a out of nowhere, she started screaming, ties him up against the wall, and implores him to forbear her. Sudden, Shizuka launches barges positioning Kizuraji between the two beyond his reach. To her dismay, she tells her that, given that he must arrange for an outdoor lesson with her, he can't afford to waste time drawing in her company. Death by doodling is possible, as a result of improper timing. Kizuraji, in a rage, punishes Shamuzuka for meddling, expressing her desire for just conversation with Hello Makoto. When Shamuzuka retaliates, she says it was Kizuraji who first ventured into their previous discussion. After that, tells Kizuraji while holding Makoto's hand in order to depart. Shimizuzuka employs Arak in fearlessly trailing after her. Makoto leaves behind Kizuraji, who is pouting. Classic high school diplomacy with a helping hand. At one point on his own, Shimizuzuka accuses him of being weak and informs him that he is going to miss his got-together with Seiko. His response is feeble. If Kizuraji refused to pay attention. In an admission that Kizuraji is scary, but Makoto is occupied with other things, gazing at the hand that was just held by her. She observes and lightly inquires as to whether he desires to repeat the process. Laughing, he says she merely turned a bright shade of red, so ought not to. They're light-hearted jokes on, but it's obvious that he still feels her kind touch. Jumbo Tomatoes seems to be a reliable gauge of feel ashamed of. On the day when Makoto turned graduating from middle school, Shizuka wishes him well and hopes that he succeeds on my way to the after-party. He was unconvincingly offers her their congratulations, and after which he abruptly leaves, disregarding her exhortations to cease. She is curious over his cool demeanor, but reassures herself that, thankfully, they are both going to the same high school. At a cave later on, Shizuka describes their encounter with Makoto and Satu and encountered resistance from Shamuzuka and another stunning woman leading the way. Completely lacking like an unexpected burst of color to derail your sweet treat. It is Setu's opinion that the woman is incredible beauty. What's more, she discovers a beautiful Shamuzuka. In envy, Setu feels all over Shimuzuka's silky skin. They show interest in learning more about both where are Shamuzuka and that stunning lady headed, traveling back to their respective homes. Just like that, Shizuka seeks information regarding Shamuzuka's dubious status from Setu because she is terrified even if it were to influence Makoto's. Simply said, nothing screams high school drama, like became as rampant as, say, neighborhood rumors' latest headlines across the country. Not even Setu knows for sure. However, she has a reputation for being a nuisance. One thing she says is that she is never by herself, both in and beyond of the classroom. Shizuka notes with consideration that she failed to appear to share any kind of connection with Makoto at to a minimum. But in those days, she was merrily following his lead. After Haruka thinks concerning Kizuraji's search for him. But despite this, she didn't engage with her seriously. On occasion, the detective's efforts fall flat in situations where your peers serve as your targets. A rumor that Shizuka has been spreading Kizuraji had cordial relations with Hello Makoto. What if Kizuraji were to her looks and remarks on how she is cool among the lads, despite looking simple, serene, and tranquil? Supposedly, Setu is lavished with care. Haruka reveals that it seemed like something was off between Makoto and Nanako in the distant past. But subsequently, Nanako and Kizuraji both something dubious. Junior year bonds that have an element of secrecy, tragedy, and most of all, shame. Haruko pauses limited in length due to the excessive distressing for her to express. Sadu infers that Haruko isn't interested in spending time with Nanako to spend time with Makoto and Kizuraji. Not even Shizuka can agree with her. Surprisingly, Haruka joyfully leaps to their delight, asserting that Oni-chan was really accommodating to her this morning, and Kusumochi was accepted by her. Among the other females perplexed by that bizarre proclamation, it would appear that accepting sweets redeems A for the rest of one's life. Haruko elaborates he has become more placid than previously for a while, and most of the glory should go to the Shimizuka flower. Despondently, Shizuka lowers her pauses for a moment before blurting out a query relating to the question of whether they are both emotionally attached with Makoto. Nonetheless, they freely acknowledge that they have all caused him emotional distress. Flashbacks enter the plot when, whilst in elementary school, Shizuka was significantly disturbed by the news of Makoto's diminishing standing in the community. Dissimilar to a memory jog to bring to remembrance that, for everyone, school was a brutal place. She did feels bad for not confirming it during that period, while her peers received so intense that she couldn't even finish a support Makoto, even though you know the fact that he spared her harm. Her memory of how being convicted made Makoto wretched by the students in his class. It concerns children. For many students, school is life. She evolved into worried about Makoto and anticipated that he would maintain this posture throughout on top of that. In her heart, she desired urgently in order to eliminate the misunderstanding. When it happened, though, she was anxious that the focus would turn to she would be hated by her. Having concerns facing accusations is essentially an academic competition. Because of this, she left Makoto alone. In her mind, she has the option to compensate for her actions by high school, but Makoto was never one to offer her chance. Following that event, she experienced anguish over the error that her less capable independently produced. When Shizuka finds out that Haruka freely acknowledges her knowledge of it each day, it is more enjoyable when surprises entail remorse that has been long felt. She remembers the way the other children treated him solely because he struck Shizuka. But even she was experiencing unaware of the reality. Attempts were made by her to verify with her acquaintance, who verified Makakota is terrifying, even though Haruka's hymns praising his kindness. Those close to him have the impression that he might be deceitful and behaves morally solely when confronted with, despite the fact that Haruka's mother is his grandma-in-law. Back then, Haruka experienced poor guy, considering that right this second he might eventually find themselves on their own, but she had the impression that he merited it. Seemingly due to misunderstood people make a living at it. Subsequently, when a depleted Haruka returned to then, she went home and told everyone that he hurt a woman. Their mom was heartbroken and scolded him harshly. At this time, even Haruka confesses to feeling jealous of him giving Shizuka more of his focus, so there was a certain joy in her causing him trouble. Gradually, he had a steadily declining quality of life, and I felt a growing sense of regret. She made an effort. Doing all it took to rectify her error, however, it dawned on her that she was being stupid. Regrettably, she estimates that recently things have become excessive and he is uncaring toward her. How much she hopes that she may have corrected her error. In the past. The time has come for Satu to release the rumor's secret revealed that she was assaulted in the library by Makoto. Cats would be pleased to show off this purse. First step. That was what Setu had always thought. However, on the day of the middle school reunion, I was told by an unknown person the truth. It seems like there was a quake, and Makoto did his best to shield her from the objects that could plummet from shelves of the library. Setu was taken aback, yet the unknown individual continued running not at all. Attempting to remember the circumstances in the past, and recalled that suddenly, an earthquake struck, and Makoto sprung onto her in an effort to rescue her. Completely lacking, similar to a devastating storyline twist that derail your standing in society. Quickly, word got out heard that Makoto punched Satu. Very soon, the news spread rapidly, and as many as possible surrounded them, scolding, "Hello, Makoto." Their peers started to question. She was asked the most naughty questions and make harsh comments on his character. Still, Satu was unable to think that a generous Makoto could go ahead and do that. Whispers spread quicker than a squirrel on caffeine, but he was inundated with a myriad of utter nonsense. Because of her extreme shyness, and enjoyed a great deal of success in his initial, that she avoided directly addressing Makoto concerning his behavior. The fact that as a result of such occurrence, her rehabilitated herself and her friends, she obtained completely absorbed in her energetic classroom her past that she forgot all about an attack. The memory of Satu as an iconic figure in 9th grade, however, insists that she turned them all down at Makoto's expense. Her gaze was undivided. As the facts came to light, and everyone those delightful library recollections overwhelmed her in my head, she came to the realization that she had romantic interests in him, but he totally paid no attention to her frantic cries. Saru proceeded fully understood her error. All 3 members currently feels remorse for what they did. It could be too late for them to do anything. He asks Shizuka and her friends to assist him go back to himself, the kind one, as nothing inspires like guilt times 3. She suggests that you not getting in touch with him personally and everyone make a pact to avoid each other. Hirako Sakura emphasizes the fact that given Shimizuka's deeply moved Oni-chan, it would be wise for them to back her up. Surprised first, Shizuka. The only way is quickly realized by Satu and others. At least to put things right. Collaboration results in aspirational endeavors even if it means repairing drama in high school. They all agree to assist the pair by getting rid of roadblocks, the first 2 being Nanako and Kizuraji. Not that they got back together under the under-ideal conditions, they are happy to at last have a conversation. Thus, an unspoken agreement is established due to the absence of any tie that binds individuals as blunders of the past and, perhaps, chocolate. I'm doing my affection is denied. I am here. Yes, I did walk away. My future self would be revealed to me.